Thanks everyone for joining. My name is Corey Portell. I'm a Senior Program Manager in the Global Learning Office, and I have the absolute pleasure and privilege to work with our presenters today in the Global Engagement Studies Institute through GESI. So welcome to the Global Learning Office's GLOVicariously webinar series. Today's topic is the art and science of achieving sustainable community development outcomes in internships and volunteer engagements. This webinar will last about an hour, with presentation followed by Q&A. All participants will remain muted, so feel free to send in any questions to the chat labeled Q&A, and I will collect them and answer them to be answered after the presentation. You're welcome to turn on your cameras or keep them turned off, and we'll launch a quick poll at the very end of the session. So Margaret is a development worker with over 20 years of experience working with communities in Uganda to advance social development. She served as a civil servant with the Ministry of Gender, Labor, and Social Development on issues of culture, women, gender, youth, and development, and as a district community development officer in Western Uganda. She's also served as a consultant for the European Union and CARE International. For 11 years, she worked for a program that is through a US-based not-for-profit facilitating global volunteer internships to advance educational service learning while supporting sustainable community development based in Uganda. Margaret has also founded a Ugandan NGO called the Foundation for Sustainable Community-Based Development, or FSD Jinja Uganda, to support grassroots organizations that are working to better their communities, environments, and economic opportunities around them, while promoting internship and volunteer engagements within this context. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Margaret, who will also be introducing a few other individuals who will be joining her today. Take it away, Margaret.
Thank you so much, Corey. I'm so privileged to be with you this evening, this morning. Welcome to this webinar. I'm going to be presenting this paper with two of my colleagues. I take this pleasure to introduce Christina Malarkey Elizabeth to introduce herself. Please, Christine.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christine Malarkey, and I am the International Program Coordinator with FSD. I was once an intern, and then I started working as an IPC with FSD. So happy to be here, and thank you for having us.
Yeah, I'll go ahead to ask Julius from Kakira Code Organization to introduce himself. Please, Julius.
Hello and good morning to you all over there. I'm humbled to be here to participate in this webinar. My name is Julius Kisere, the Chief Executive Officer of Kakira Outgrowers Development Fund, and we have partnered with FSD Jinja since 2009. Thank you.
Yeah, today we are here to discuss a topic which is the art and the science of achieving sustainable community development outcomes in an internship volunteer engagement. Now, this paper looks at how can a student achieve sustainable outcomes while learning if he opts to do an internship. We are focusing mainly on sustainable development. The paper is divided in two sections. The first section is explaining the principles, the fundamentals, and pillars of sustainable development. And the second section is talking about what do you do to make sure that the community you are going to work with, the organization you are going to serve, can achieve true sustainable development out of your engagement. So let us start. The agenda is 3. We talk about sustainable development, community development, which is part and parcel of sustainable development, and then the art and science of achieving successful, sustainable community development engagement, which is the application of the principles and fundamentals. Go ahead, Christine. Okay. In this discussion, we have about 4 major concepts. The first one is internship. Many people join internship without knowing what internship is. It's a period of work experience offered by an employer to give students exposure to the working environment. And this is what we exactly do by receiving students all over the world, including from Northwestern University. Community refers to a group with common values attributed with social cohesion. It's a group, but there must be cohesion. Art is the application of human creative skill and imagination, experience, study, all observation. So art is a skill. And here we are going to be talking of a skill of applying community development principles to the community. And science is the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experience. We are going to look at how this happens in the community development internship. Let's move on, Christine. Okay, let us start with the sustainable development fundamentals and values. This is very key and central to every discipline and sector of development in today's development world. The United Nations defines sustainable development as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. Now, this is as complicated as it is, because with the market economy, with the globalization that we are undertaking these days, it's very hard for people to use resources in a way that even those who are going to come should find those resources. But if you do development work correctly, this can happen. Now, sustainable development has 3 principles. And it is there to build the markets and create jobs. It is there to bring people in from the margins, and sustainable development is there to give every man and woman a voice and a choice in deciding their own future. Let's go ahead and see how this happens. Sustainable development has 3 major principles. The first principle is that of profit. Yeah? And when we talk of profit, it is economic growth. If you are going to achieve sustainable development, there must be economic growth. But 2, the second pillar is environmental stewardship. As much as you want the economic growth, any development should take care of the environment in which this economic development is taking place. And then there must be social inclusion, yeah? They are the people. We are achieving economic growth because the people need the economy to be good. But this economy happens within an environment, and that environment has to be protected by the people. So that's why the 3 principles are very important: economic growth, environmental stewardship, and social inclusion. These principles are also informally used as profit, people, and planet. So when you're talking about sustainable development, those 3 principles are the key. Okay, so if those are the 3 principles, they also act as the pillars of sustainability. The 3 pillars of sustainable development cut across all sectors of development. Talk of engineering, talk of health, talk of agriculture, talk of anything on the world. Those 3 pillars cut across. From cities facing rapid urbanization to agriculture, infrastructure, energy development and use, water viability and transport, is these 3 sustainability pillars. So what are these? Number 1, it's the social community. The second is environment, And the third is the economy, as I've just discussed them. So the balance of the three causes sustainability without leaving any out. So it seeks to achieve in a balanced manner economic development, social development, and environmental protection outcome. So if you're going to do any development, you have to make sure any project or program you're working on has these three balanced. The moment you leave out one, then whatever you are working on is not going to be all that sustainable. So move on. So that is sustainable development. Now, if that is sustainable development, then what is community development? And this is what we do in internships. Community development is a practice-based profession and an academic discipline that promotes the participative democracy, sustainable development, the rights, economic opportunity, equality, and social justice through the organization, education, and empowerment of people within their communities. Please mark this. If you're going to do community development, you must organize, educate, and empower people within their communities. Please don't try to uproot people to another area such that you can make them develop. It has to happen within their community. Yeah? Whether these communities or these localities, these communities are brought together by the locality, identity, or interest in urban or rural setting, they have to be communities within their own setting, as that picture is showing you. One of our interns was with the community within their setting. Move on. So, if that is community development, we have to know if you're going to do community development internship, there are three major designs of that internship. Number one is community-based development project. The second one is community-based participatory research. The third one is policy analysis and advocacy. Now, those three designs is where people must choose. You might choose to do a development project, it's okay, or you can decide to do community-based participatory research, it's also fine, but you might be interested in policy analysis and advocacy. So you have to choose of the three. Now, you can do all of those three if your internship is long, like 6 months, like 9 months, that one is okay. But if you're coming for 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 6 weeks, we suggest that you just pick one of those three. Let's move on. Okay, let us look at the different designs of community development. If you're going to do community development projects, yeah, you must know that you're going to do a comprehensive practice of project development in a preferred sector. And when we talk of preferred sector, it means you can do a community development project in health, in environment, in agriculture, in education, whichever sector you want. Yeah, and this involves community assessment, project planning, resource mobilization, project implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. Yeah, and usually these internships focus on small scope of the community improvement projects because of the internship limited time. You cannot work on a very big project. No, we always ask that you work on something small, but you do it effectively and efficiently to make sure that you learn from that experience and the community also benefits. So examples of such projects can be access to clean, safe water, establishing a community seed bank for rural farmers, and etc. and etc. So let us look at the stages of community-based development project, the design. If you are going to do a community-based development project, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stages. There is the community assessment. This is, you collect the needs, analyze the data, select the need that you will use to develop your project. Then you, after community assessment, you proceed with project planning, yeah? Using the selected community needs to formulate a project, yeah? So during project planning, you design the goal, objective, activities, you assign tasks to the community and yourself who is going to do what, you put timelines and so on and so forth. Now, when it comes to project implementation, the project plan you made, it was a framework, a written paper or a written framework. This is the time when you have to put into action what you planned. And then monitoring, you keep tracking what you planned, monitoring against the objectives you set to make sure that you are reaching the desired target. And at the end, you have to make an evaluation. Evaluations has to take place 3 times in the project, but I won't go through the stages because of the time. But just know, if you're going to do a community-based development project, you have to have all those 5 stages. You can't miss one. If you miss one, then you can't get the project. The second design is that of community-based participatory research. Yeah, this one is always done in partnership with the community. Yeah, so CBPR is a partnership approach to research that equally involves community members and others in all aspects of research process. Yeah, all partners contribute expertise and share in the decision-making and ownership. Yeah, aims to increase knowledge and understanding of a given phenomenon and integrates the knowledge gained with interventions for policy or social change benefiting the community members. So sometime back, old research, the traditional research, used not to involve communities. They used to look down upon communities as not knowing. Sometimes they don't know the English. So people who from universities, from agencies like government could come collect information from the community, and then they make their own research reports and decisions. But in most cases, the decisions they used to make would not work for the community. And we've seen so many research being made on community, but the action is not taken. So this is a kind of new approach to research where communities are supposed to be part of the research and decision-making in that research. We call it action research. And once findings are made, communities take action immediately. I myself call it a knowledge democracy kind of research because everybody participates and everybody is involved equally. So that is the second design. Let's see the stages of community-based participatory research. This research has only 4 stages. That is laying the foundation. This requires organizing stakeholders steering group. I've told you it is participatory, therefore you have to bring the community, the academic fraternity, all agencies involved in this research together, and you form a steering group that coordinates the research. So this group, you have to set roles. What is the community going to do? What are the researchers going to do? And so on and so on. And at laying foundation, this is when we develop assumption, analyze the context and of the situation to be studied, identifying the purpose of research and so on. Once that is done, the second stage of the design is planning. In planning, you define research goals, develop methods for collecting information, and developing an analysis plan. There are so many methods that can be used to collect information. So this is the stage when we decide on the methods to use. Then the third stage is information gathering and analyzing and interpreting that information. And the last one is acting on the finding, sharing information and acting on the findings. This is the strong point of this kind of research. Once we get the research findings, communities go ahead and act on the findings. So let us look at another design. Yeah. The last design is policy analysis and policy advocacy. For us, NGOs and non-profit organizations majorly focus on social and public policy engagement. So if you come down or you do a virtual internship on policy analysis and advocacy, be rest assured that you will work on either social or public policy. So social policy deals with the ways societies in the world meet human needs, health, for example, health, and address how states and societies respond to global challenges of social, economic, and environment. But on the other hand, public policy is a system of course of action, regulatory measures, laws, and funding priorities concerning a given topic promulgated by a governmental entity or its representatives. It is commonly embodied in constitutions, legislative acts, and judicial decisions. So these two policies are different, yeah? Social policy deals with the way societies respond to issues, you know? Things like, you might find that like here in Uganda, we have a problem of gender disparities. In my culture, women are supposed to kneel down for men or women who are superior to them. Now, that is a way society, that is a culture, that is a value. Government cannot put a regulation or a law deterring people from kneeling down for others. But if people or women themselves find that this kind of culture is not good for them, now people can start, organizations like NGOs or non-profit can start a campaign, yeah, to change these unwritten social policies, social culture, yeah, to change for the good of women. Now, another example, I think, a second example from public policy, you might find a government imposes a policy. In Uganda here, we were a certain policy called over-the-counter, that is OTT. They added an extra charge on using internet or accessing internet because government wanted to increase its tax base. But that policy was very unfair because that kind of internet, we pay for internet and we pay for the taxes for internet. Adding another tax means adding another burden on the citizens of Uganda. So if any organization chose to address such a policy, to advocate for that policy so that it is removed, it's a burden to the public, they have to use that public policy line, that system of public policy. So public policy, they always legislate, whether you want or not, you have to follow that policy unless stated otherwise. So where is the role of NGOs or in public policy? So public policy analysis. If you are going to advocate for any policy, social or public, you have to first analyze that policy because you have to have facts and evidence if you are going to challenge any policy. Without facts and evidence, then forget, you can't do anything about it. So Policy analysis is a process of identifying potential policy options that could address a community development problem, okay? It compares the most effective, efficient, and visible policies, because if there is a policy that is affecting people's well-being, you need to first analyze and find out how many policies are affecting people, and so on and so forth. It requires an examination and evaluation of available policy options for development problem in a particular sector. Maybe it can be education sector, but it has to be at local level. The purpose is to address in depth a particular problem, to examine the argument related to the concerned policy, and to analyze the implementation of that policy. Sometimes the policy is not bad, but the implementation is wrong. So you have to analyze and find out where the problem is. Let's look at advocacy. So policy advocacy is an attempt to influence the decisions of any institution elite on behalf of a collective interest. So action directed at changing the policies, positions, or program of any type of institution. It draws communities' attention to an important issue and direct decision makers towards a solution. It also impacts larger groups of people through the process of incremental social change. So public advocacy is to change. If you're going to change, you have to advocate for that particular policy. But what are the stages that you go through to have this policy analysis and policy advocacy? So the stages are 5. Number 1, stage number 1, the policy analysis has to identify an issue for policy action. Once an issue for the policy action is identified, you go to the second stage, which is partnership building, identify your stakeholders involved in the policy issue to work together in solutions that are politically, socially, and economically visible. That one takes us back to sustainable development. The third stage is actually the centerpiece of advocacy, yeah? Is building the political will. It is not easy, but you have to organize agencies, you have to build coalitions so that you increase awareness, build and deliver effective messages. Messages that have facts and figures, messages that have evidence that that policy doesn't work or the implementation is poor. The first stage is policy implementation. If your policy, if the policymakers agree to change and improve the policy, the next stage is to implement the improved policy that was passed, yeah? Now, and the last one is to evaluate, policy evaluation. So here, you evaluate the impact. You evaluate the impact, yeah? You do impact assessment of the implementation of the new or improved policy and the extent it has been to extent to how much it has been achieved. So those are the 3 designs in community development. Let's move on. So those are the principles, the fundamentals and the pillars of development. So if those are the principles, how do we apply them in community development when we are doing internships or volunteerships such that we have an impactful outcome of what we are doing? We have an impactful learning out of our internship. And that is the art and science of achieving successful, sustainable community development engagement. You have to apply all those principles You have to apply all those fundamentals and pillars if you're going to be successful, but there are very many. So what is the art and science of applying those fundamentals? That is our next stage. So in community development practice, internship practice, number one, you have to focus on the sustainable organization, education, and empowerment of people within their communities. You have to use participatory methodologies, and community development starts from the principle that within any community, there is a wealth of knowledge, experience, and assets. And if used in creative ways, this can be channeled into corrective action to achieve community's desired goals. So those are the key when you are entering into internship practice. Don't come to the community thinking that they don't have anything. They have resources. They have, your work is to educate, empower, and organize the community. But how do we do this? Yeah, this is the framework of doing community development internship. The framework starts with address expressed needs of the community. Many interns, many students from all over the country, even here in Uganda, when they come to work with organizations, they come with an already set agenda of what they are going to do with the community, with the organization. So when interns are given to FSD, for example, we look for organizations that match their skills, their interest, and their passion. For instance, if an intern is a health student, let's say, wants to be a midwife, a doctor, anything in the health line, a public health practitioner, we look for an organization that has his, his interest or his background. Now, when the intern comes to the organization, the first thing she or he has to do is to address expressed community needs. Please don't come with your own agenda. This community has its own agenda. In most cases, we see if an intern comes with her own agenda, he goes ahead to implement that agenda. And communities don't refuse, they just let him do what he wants, yeah? But please, you have to ask the community, because they already know that you are a health practitioner or a health student, ask the community what the needs they have in that sector of health. They will be in position to tell you what they need, what they want. So whichever need is mentioned, it must fall within the sustainable development principles, whatever. So the next task the intern has is to align the needs that have been selected by the community and find out of the 14 sustainable development agendas, where do these needs fall, yeah? You have to make sure that you work on a community priority need. The second is utilize community-owned resources efficiently, yeah? They have resources. Your work is to look at, if that is their need, what are the available resources that these people have, yeah? External support comes in only on those aspects that they cannot afford. I'll give an example from CODE. People come and work on water source protection, but they provide sand, they provide the labor itself, they provide all what they can. Usually, students seed fund provides things like pipes that communities cannot find. So that makes them value what you have given them because they contributed part of the resources. Then build on the strength of the people. What do we mean? Community projects are more successful when initiated by the community and when the community members take part in planning, implementing, and evaluating of the project. So what do you have to do as an intern? You have to transfer skills, knowledge, and information to the people. The question is, where am I going to get this information to transfer to the people? But you have a host organization that can connect you to so many resources that are in the community. So create more sustainable infrastructure within the community itself. This is when we look at social inclusion, yeah? When you put up a project, make sure you have a human infrastructure of leadership. You teach your community that you're working with some leadership skills. There must be a chairman, a treasurer, and a secretary to take notes, yeah? And you have to make sure that everybody participates. And as you put up this sustainable human infrastructure, you have also to put there structures that make the leaders at that time keep changing, like providing a constitution and giving a time frame for when leaders can change. And then you have to improve the quality of life. You'll be surprised. Improving quality of life in sustainable development is not about providing things like money and so on. Enhancing quality of life is about emphasizing that communities analyze their own experiences, make decisions about how best to solve their problems, and overcome challenges as a result of feeling empowered. So the moment they feel empowered to address their problems, then you are rest assured that they will improve their standards of living even when you are not there. And finally, whichever project you work on must create new business opportunities to strengthen the economies. Okay, let's move forward.
Margaret, I just want to let you know we're left with about 5 minutes.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let me hurry,
Okay.
let me hurry.
Okay.
Move on.
Okay.
Okay. Sustainable development considers, like you have to do an impact assessment of your project. You must do an assessment of culture. You must do an assessment of political sustainability, economic sustainability, social sustainability, and manage, most importantly, environmental impact assessment to find out, does it work or it doesn't work? Yeah, let's move on. Yeah. So the outcome is that they will get skills, knowledge, information to discover their strengths, opportunities, and needs and challenges if you take the framework into action. Let's move on. So the phases of internship process are 5. We have, if you come to do that internship, there is the preparation phase. This involves alignment of internship with expectation. Then the second phase, let's go to the second phase. The second phase lays the foundation for the internship. Yeah, this is when you get to know the people, you get the supervisor, you carry out the community assessment and develop your work plan, yeah, using the given tools. Phase 3 includes the implementation of the developed work plan. You use all the tools we give you in phase 2 to develop the work plan, and in phase 3, you use those tools and knowledge to implement the plan you developed in phase 3. Let's go to phase 4. Phase 4 is the completion and transfer of responsibility. So once you have completed your project, you have to hand it over to the community, yeah? And then you have to make sure that there is a clear plan or to sustain your project. You do reflection with the host organizations, look at the successes and challenges, but most importantly, there are always a debrief to share experience and celebrate the accomplishments. That is phase 5. Phase 5 is reporting. You focus on completing all reporting and evaluation of the program. Yeah.
Okay,
now
so
I hand over to Christine to take us through the role of the intern or the student.
yeah, so the role of the student in community development is a little bit unique in this kind of situation because an intern comes in as an outsider. As someone who's not part of the community, most students have never been to Uganda, or they're not part of the culture, so they're definitely an outsider in this situation. Whereas sustainable development ensures community ownership. A student comes as an outsider, but can still play a significant role in contributing to the community. And through training in sustainable community development, a student can contribute through participatory program design and management, organizational and leadership development, seed funding, and sharing innovations, knowledge, and expertise from their classes, and also energizing the community. And we see that the student adds a really valuable input into the community development projects. So the purpose of an outside catalyst is to stimulate change. So the student plays the role of the facilitator, not the direct implementer. They act as a mirror to reflect what is there and what may be overlooked. An easy thing to think about that is when you don't always see the beauty of where you live until you get a visitor who says, wow, your backyard is so beautiful. And then you're like, wow, yeah, it is really beautiful. Someone to show you what's already there and magnify that. An outsider connects people and they act as change agents. They help build trust, and they have a plan and the work plan and the budget and everything. And they also have external resources and external experience that can help that. So it's also important that the outsider comes from a positive paradigm. They come viewing the community as having a glass half full. So we also see a lot of times there's many stereotypes wrapped up in doing an internship abroad, specifically one in community development. There's lots wrapped up in that, and we see a lot of people thinking like they want to help the poor, they want to help stop poverty, and we try to discourage that thinking into thinking as a community full of resources. I can give one example. This is a simple example. We had a student one time speaking to a group of women with disabilities in Uganda, and he said, I'm here, I want to help. I want to make sure that you guys have a voice. And one of the women raised her hand and just politely said, it's not that we don't have a voice, it's that no one is listening. So I thought that was a good way to show that the student is there to magnify what is within the community and not to think of them as being needy or wanting to help, like, being poor. So 7 factors that determine an effective internship. This is a two-way street. This is what students bring, and then this is also what FSD and the host organizations bring. That is academic preparedness, having a positive attitude, self-initiative, feeling challenged, providing effective supervision and task clarity, and then also compensation. And all of those contribute to having an effective internship. These are common things that we hear from students. We usually do like an exit evaluation at the end. We hear a lot about, I learned more about myself. I was able to understand development work as a career path for me, or it's not a career path for me. I've been able to apply what's in university and know it can be a career. It was challenging to adapt and work in a new environment in a cross-cultural situation. And so we see it as being very valuable both for the student and then also the community.
Yeah, there are so many internship opportunities in the developing world. A broad survey of current programs and projects in Uganda suggests a wide range of activities that interns can engage in: microfinance, health education, engineering, all that. So internship opportunities exist with local and international NGO, community-based organizations and groups, development agencies, companies, and government also. What is unfortunate is that there is lack of information and awareness about this phenomenon in developing countries, and lack of structure to support internship remain a challenge. A few NGOs and social enterprise companies have prioritized internship to provide structure and supervision needed, but still when interns come to most of the organizations, they don't have this structured, systematic community development approach. They just tell them to get along with whatever is happening in the organization. Most times, students come back saying we did internship of community development, which is not it, and it's disheartening. Go ahead, another slide. So host organizations are supposed to develop a systematic plan of internship, provide sufficient supervisory support, to interns to enhance career, and supervisors must act as mentors and also offer constructive feedback to the student interns. But unfortunately, some organizations look at interns as a kind of burden, like interfering with their daily routine, but they accommodate them anyway. Let's move on. Another slide. So benefits interns bring to organization: they give new dimensions to community development. Usually they have beautiful ideas. If you give them structure, interns can contribute a lot. They enhance the social strategy of the organization. Interns may become entry levels of hires. I've seen several interns coming back to Uganda to work with different agencies in Uganda. Some work with their host organizations, but people prefer to hire students who have prior experience with internship. Mentor opportunities for the community. You have no idea. We put this even on our CV that we mentored so many interns who are doing it, making it in the world. And then we reiterate the importance of strong leaders, Then interns facilitate professional networking. Your internships acts as a catalyst for us to reach out to other development agencies such that your project is completed and fulfilled well. An intern usually leaves a sustainable development legacy behind. For example, we have here a flood soap project that was initiated by an intern way back in 2009, and the soap is still there. We also have a Keller Cares Club. Those are names of interns, and communities decided to name those projects by their names, and the projects are still running down the road after 10 years. Continue. Give us another slide. Yeah. It is you, Christine.
Okay, yeah, so these are some of the benefits to the local community that works with through the host organization and through the student. This is kind of a cool example in this picture. This was from a virtual internship. You can see these community members interacting with students on Zoom. Part of the benefits to the local community are broadening their worldview, increasing access to resources, and having that catalyst to change, like we mentioned before, strengthening community bond, and then also improving livelihood through the projects.
So as you have seen, community development uses community-based participatory approaches. It's practice, it's so practical, it's hands-on, So because it is practical, it is an art. You have to get the skill of doing community development, but at the same time, community development internships lead to the understanding of the behavioral interactions of people and communities, potential to influence their status quo in their natural world, in their own communities. Students lead efforts to create and maintain health sustainable communities. They gain a broad-based understanding and awareness of multidimensional aspects of community challenges and the means of affecting change from both grassroots and public policy perspectives. It prepares students to learn, understand, and think critically about the social, political, economic, and cultural dynamic shaping various types of communities. And no wonder some universities have Bachelor of Science in Community Development. It is usually looked at as an art, but actually it is a science because it adds a lot of understanding, knowledge, and we don't stop at understanding and getting knowledge, but we use that knowledge to take action. Another slide. Yeah, in conclusion, sustainable community development internship practice involves both science and art, systematically involves participatory approaches, focuses in a professional application of the fundamental principles and values of sustainable development. And the aim is to achieve observable sustained development in a natural environment, community, and beneficial learning for the student. Mark you, the engagement must achieve in a balanced manner the economic development, social development, and environmental protection outcome. Without that, then the internship is not effective. Now let us call upon Julius to share within 5 minutes. Corey, I beg you, let Julius talk about his experience working with the students. Yeah, and see how this
Please feel free. Please feel free. And Julius, I know that we've got a little bit of questions from the audience already. So if you would be willing to share a little bit about a success story, as well as you know, what you intend to cover within this context.
Okay, I will just share about the impact of the interns at organization level. Where these interns have offered an extra set of hand to the organization. You know, nowadays, non-government organizations are run like companies. They thrive on skeletal staff. So when we have those interns at our workplaces, they provide that extra human resource that helps us to accomplish some of the projects. Then the other thing is that is very important to us is the enhancing of social strategy. You know, these interns come with a wealth of innovative ideas, new ideas that are helpful to our organizations. For example, there's an intern who pioneered the Springs Protection project. That group came when they had just done an evaluation of our strategic plan that had expired, and they realized that the communities that we serve, it was only 48% that could access clean water. Then we were thinking what technology that we could adapt. Then then the group of interns came up with the protected springs. The technology is simple, cheap, and can be maintained by the beneficiaries. And to date, the board of directors passed a resolution to adopt the technology. And right now we have protected around 9 protected springs in communities, serving more than 8,500 individuals. Then the only challenge that we've been having with the interns is decision making. Since they come in groups, when they go for needs assessments, they are overwhelmed by, by the needs of the community. But we only encourage them to prioritize and take on the priority. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Julius. Christine, Margaret, do you have anything else to add before we transition to a couple of questions?
Yeah, in the interest of time, we are not going to add, though we have a lot to share, but in the interest of time, let us welcome the questions.
Fantastic. And for the audience, I know that Margaret, Julius, and Christine have very graciously agreed to stick around for a few minutes. So if you're able to join us once we wrap up with some questions, there will be some time to connect as well. So one of the questions we received was, how do you think that parts of these principles and framework will change during a virtual experience due to COVID and travel restrictions in general? Do you think that the true impact in some or all of these areas can be made while students are in a different place, even when they're not there to work alongside community partners?
Thank you for the question, and it is a very interesting question, good question. Right now, we have a number of students from the New York State University, SUNY Geneseo, undertaking this program. Nothing much has changed apart from them not being present in the community, because they do community assessment together with the community. They do the planning together with the organization, and right now they are implementing the projects. So what we do, we use a lot of technology, like the Zoom and large screens, so that the community can ask questions and the intern answers, and the intern can also ask questions, can even facilitate a training, yeah, using the technology. So nothing much is going to change, but the in-person, of course, somebody wants to be physical, get there, but we are trying our best to make sure that we don't lose any step.
Julius, does that feel do you think there will be any difference on your end in terms of working with students?
Is Julius still with us?
The internet was unstable. I couldn't hear you, but I'm getting you now.
We received a question from someone asking if a virtual experience interning with an organization like CORD would be different, or the impact in particular of the work would be different. So I'm curious from your perspective and experience, what you think.
What I think, the only thing that has changed is that the interns are not physically at the site, but we do a lot of interaction using technologies like Zoom, email, right from needs assessment. They do participate virtually up to implementation and assessment. So the only change is not being here physically, but they are engaged virtually.
Well, thank you. And let's give a round of virtual applause to Margaret, Julius, and Christine. As I said, they'll be able to stick around for some extra questions, but thank you everyone for joining us for this week's GLOVicariously webinar. Please join us again next week to hear from another fantastic speaker on the topic of public health and development in South Africa. Enjoy the rest of your day, stick around if you can, and take care. Thanks.
Thank you.